Hello and welcome to Top of the Line. As always, I'm Nick Lynch.
And I'm Ben Heltzer.
And today on the show, we will be talking about our predictions for free agency and the off-season head coaching hires. And yeah, that's it. So let's get into it. But this is our first show where we will not be talking about an actual NFL game that happened September 1st, which is the first Sunday of September. Of course, that predicting the season will start on that Sunday. We have 189 days until then. But first, we got to get through the offseason before the season can begin. And it starts with the head coaching hires. So there was 8 teams who had head coaching vacancies this offseason, which all have now been filled, starting with the Washington Commanders, with Dan Quinn hiring the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, who has been there for 4 seasons. But it's pretty weird to think that Dan Quinn is back in a head coaching job.
Yeah, it kind of is, but at the same time, I'm not going to say I love the hiring, but it was a good move, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do with this new organization.
Yeah, I agree. Some head coaches, at first, it doesn't work out as head coach, but then they go back down as a coordinator, and then they go back up as a head coach, and they do phenomenal. So I'm kind of interested to see where this Washington Commanders team takes us next season. But moving on with the Atlanta Falcons, Raheem Morris, who had the interim head coaching job for the Falcons in 2020, went to the LA Rams as a defensive coordinator and now is back with the Falcons as the full-time head coach. There was a lot of rumors with the Falcons about the Bill Belichick situation of how he wants to coach again, but this year he did not get a head coaching job, which kind of is shocking. This is the first time in a while where Bill Belichick is not a head coach in this league. What do you think of the Falcons' choice here of where they went with their head coach?
Yeah, I was obviously surprised that they didn't at least try and go for Belichick. He was there. And I don't know if Belichick is going to end up anywhere or where he's going to end up, but I do like the signing by them, or the hiring, because the Rams defense did play well last year. So I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do as a head coach.
I agree, but reports do say that Bill Belichick said the Falcons never offered him a head coaching job, even though there were a ton of rumors that Bill Belichick was going to head coach the Atlanta Falcons. But of course, Raheem Morris, he's not the Bill Belichick level of a head coach. That Falcons team still has some work to do on both offense and defense, starting with the quarterback position. They're not committed on Desmond Ridder just yet. I think either they're going to get someone in free agency, or they're going to draft a quarterback or stick with Ridder, but that, I think, is the last option that Atlanta would want to go. But moving on through head coaching in the NFC South, the Carolina Panthers, who fired Frank Reich in Week 11, have now named the Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales as their head coach. This is interesting because the Buccaneers were not the best offensive team, but it's good enough for Canales to be the Carolina head coach.
Yeah, and I love it because the Bucs, nobody thought they were going to be anything, and they ended up going to the playoffs. They ended up winning the division and dropping, I think, 30 plus 30 on the Eagles, which, they didn't have the best defense, but it was still something, and the Bucs dropped 30 plus on them in the wild card. So I think that offense was at least somewhat electric under Baker, and they had Evans, and I think that, they were able to do something, and it was because of him. So, obviously I'm excited to see what he ends up doing in Carolina.
I totally agree. Of course, the Panthers, they are one of the most rebuilding teams in this league. They finished with a 2-15 record. I think that Bryce Young can definitely improve. He's a quarterback out of Alabama. And Alabama quarterbacks, they're used to tough coaching. They're used to, playing in the spotlight. But the Panthers, of course, you need to give him some weapons. The offensive line has been awful for Carolina. His receivers, Adam Thielen has been one, but there's nobody else. If the Panthers want to win, they need to almost fits everything, except for the quarterback's position. And then moving on with the Seattle Seahawks, Mike Macdonald gets the head coaching job, who was the Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator. This was a great hire, I think. Of course, it's kind of sad to see Pete Carroll leave after 13 seasons coaching the Seattle Seahawks, 1-2 record in the Super Bowl. But the Seahawks, they had a dynasty going with Pete Carroll, and hopefully they could start a new one with Macdonald.
Yeah, this might be my favorite hiring out of all of them. I love this for Seattle. The Ravens defense was one of the best, if not the best defense in the league this past season, and it was because of him. So I think that and the Seattle team can be really good if they have the right people running it, and I think that he's going to do great things in Seattle, and I'm excited to see what happens.
I agree. The Ravens defense, the Ravens produced some great defensive coordinators, Wink Martindale, and now Mike Macdonald, who has a head coaching job with the Seahawks. With Pete Carroll, his 1-2 record in the Super Bowl, he absolutely destroyed the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl and then lost to the Steelers and the New England Patriots. And then, speaking of the New England Patriots, they have a new head coach for the first time in what feels like forever, with Gerard Mayo, the linebackers coach for the Patriots, becoming the new head coach to replace Bill Belichick. With Belichick, though, it's also sad to see him leave. But for Gerard Mayo, I think that he could be an Antonio Pierce kind of coach. But yeah, the Patriots, I don't see them winning now, but I think in a few years, if they do well in free agency, do good at the trade deadline, I think they could be back up as one of the contenders in the AFC again.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, Belichick not there feels so weird, but I think that this is going to end up being good for them, and a new head coach can maybe get them back on track in a few years.
I agree. I think it was time for Belichick to go.
I agree. I think it was his time to go.
Yeah, just seeing him on the sideline in that last game when they played the Jets and the cold snow in Foxborough, it looked like it was time for him to go. The Tennessee Titans have a new head coach. They got rid of Mike Vrabel, and they go with Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this was another great hire. The Titans are transitioning into that rebuild phase. The Titans, with Derrick Henry leaving, or he's about to leave, and yeah, it's weird that Vrabel. I think Vrabel's a terrific head coach. Don't get me wrong, but I think in football, like if the head coach isn't clicking with the team, someone's got to take the blame for it, and this time the Titans thought it was the head coach.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Obviously, you don't win Coach of the Year on accident.
No.
He's an incredible coach, but I just don't think Tennessee is the team for him, especially going into this, like you said, this rebuild stage. I think that they're not going to compete, especially in a tough AFC South. They're not going to compete, immediately, but we saw flashes of what Will Levis could do, and I think that once he develops a little more, I think that, Tennessee will be back in a few years, but it's just not going to happen right now. And a big part of that is going to be this new head coach.
I agree that the rebuild phase, it's tough. It could be long, could be short, but it's not going to be a very good next few years for the Tennessee Titans. The LA Chargers have Jim Harbaugh. Now he's back coaching an NFL team. He won the national championship with Michigan in college football last season, and I think this could work out perfectly for the Chargers. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they are definitely going to be in the playoffs, I think. And with Justin Herbert, he has not had good coaching in his career, his very short career, I should say. But now that he has Harbaugh, he's great at developing quarterbacks. and I think he can develop Herbert the right way to push this team to a championship.
Yeah, I 100% agreed. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is an amazing coach. We saw that obviously with Michigan, but even before that, he took the Niners to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, he lost to his brother in the Ravens, but he's still an amazing coach. And Justin Herbert is so talented. He just hasn't had a coach that can almost rein him in and hone his talent. And I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to be able to do that. And I agree with you. I don't think they'll catch the Chiefs next year, but they'll still contend for a wild card spot and probably make the playoffs next year.
Yeah, but there's more head coaching competition in the AFC West. The Las Vegas Raiders, who fired Josh McDaniels very early in the season, have now hired their interim head coach, Antonio Pierce, who took over for the Raiders last season. And he did pretty well. He beat the Chiefs. And in Las Vegas, beating the Chiefs is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what the rest of the season looks like, just beating the Chiefs. And Antonio Pierce, I think that he's a great coach, but the Raiders don't have the right weapons for him. The quarterback position, I have no idea who it's going to be for the Raiders. They could trade for Justin Fields. They could trade up in the draft to get a better QB. I don't know where this Raiders team is going to lead next. They have that Devontae Adams rumors of him asking for a trade. Josh Jacobs is a free agent, so we'll see where this Raiders team takes us.
Yeah, another team that's entering the rebuild phase. And I think that this new head coach, obviously their interim head coach last season, I think that he's going to bring a spark to this team, but it's not going to be enough, at least immediately. But I think that, he'll do good with them. They're in good hands with him, I think.
I wouldn't say the Raiders are in a rebuild phase yet, but they are close. They're very close. They're like one losing season away from going into rebuild. But unfortunately, we got to take a break, but don't worry. We are not leaving you. As next, we are going to talk about key free agents and where they will be going. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back as we have finished the first half of the off season. So, well, not literally, but you know what I mean. Now we are going to talk about free agency. So there's a lot of key free agents out there, and this is going to be a very interesting free agency.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. There's so many guys that can go to so many different places, and we're just going to have to wait and see. All we can do is predict right now, which is what we're going to do, but nothing. We're probably going to be wrong on a lot of these.
All right. But there are some huge free agents out there. Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, two big quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, his future is almost at ransom right now. But with Baker Mayfield, I think his future, or mostly everyone thinks his future is pretty set in Tampa. Next, we have two big running backs, Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. Saquon Barkley, actually both of those running backs got tagged last season. Saquon, he's either going to leave or the Giants are going to franchise tag him. I don't think he's going to go, or he's going to get that long-term deal that he's been wanting. Same with Josh Jacobs. I think it's either franchise tag or leave for the Raiders. Michael Pittman and Mike Evans for the Colts. I think the Colts should keep Pittman because the future is bright for Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson and Mike Evans. Mike Evans, it would be a shame to see him go to a bad team.
I don't think you will, because I think he's going to end up in Kansas City.
Really?
I think he's going to want to chase another ring, and Kansas City's going to want to go back to back to back, and I think that he's going to fit right in there. And it sucks, but they have the money, and I think that they're going to sign him to like a 1 or 2 year deal to go chase another ring.
Now, you know where I think he's going to go?
Where?
Houston. That's where I think he's.
You don't need another receiver.
Well, they
Collins, Dell, Brown, they're fine.
Well,
if anything, I think Barkley might go to Houston.
Yes, Saquon would be a great fit for Houston. There's some rumors saying he's going to go to the Cowboys or Miami
or the Chargers.
Yeah,
I think he'll end up in Houston or LA, or they'll just slap the tag on him again.
Yeah, I think as a Giants fan, I think that's the safer option, just franchise tagging Saquon for another year. Chris Jones, Josh Allen, and Brian Burns, 3 big pass rushers right there. And Chris Jones, he held out the first few games for Kansas City last year, but I think he's going to be back with the Chiefs to try and chase another ring. Josh Allen, the pass rusher, not the quarterback, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he is also a free agent, which I think he's going to re-sign with the Jags. I don't think.
Yeah, I think he wants to, and I think that's a good move. He's obviously a great pass rusher. I think the Jags would be, not very smart to let him go.
Same with Chris
right
Jones. With Chris Jones, he's going to re-sign with Kansas City because at first he was unhappy with the Chiefs, but now that they've won 2 Super Bowls in a row, I think he's going to be excited to be with this team again. And Brian Burns, the Carolina Panthers, it would be like we talked about the Panthers being ruined earlier on, but if they lose Brian Burns now, they're really ruined. It's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree. He's one of the few shining, players on that team, but I think he'll end up staying, obviously. And then one more guy I want to talk about is Antoine Winfield Jr. Obviously, he's going to be a free agent, but I think that the Bucs are just going to slap the franchise tag on him. Yeah. But I just wanted to mention him because he's so good. And I think that obviously he was great last year, and I think the Bucs aren't going to let him go. So I think that he's going to get franchise tag.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle for the franchise tag in Tampa between Antoine Winfield and Mike Evans. But one more free agent I do want to talk about is Derrick Henry. I think he's still good. He's still a good running back. But I feel like that his value is going to go down as his career goes on. But I think he's still a terrific running back. It's the matter of, do teams want to take a risk to sign him? Because don't forget, running backs in this league don't last very long.
Yeah, I agree. And he's at that age where, obviously he's not getting any younger. He's not really getting any better. But he still can compete, and he's still a great running back. And I think that, at this age, if he wants to chase a ring, I think he'd be a great fit in Baltimore.
Baltimore, yes.
They could use a running back, and they're top contenders. And I think that if he really wants a ring, I think that that's the top place for him to go.
Yeah, I agree. With Derrick Henry, no running back has a Tom Brady career. The running back position, it's just tough because this is why the running backs don't make as much money as quarterbacks or receivers or defensive players do. But yeah, with Derrick Henry, I'm interested to see where he goes. It might be Baltimore. I think the Ravens are the favorite contender for him.
Yeah, he'd fit really well in Baltimore, but we're just going to have to see what happens with not only him but the rest of these guys, and because they're going to have to make their decisions pretty soon. So I'm excited to see where each of them goes.
I agree. What do you think? The one I'm the most interested about, who we talked about earlier, is Kirk Cousins, because he is on the older side of quarterbacks now, and I don't think he has he doesn't have much longer in his career left in him.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I think he's going to end up staying. I think the Vikings are going to end up re-signing him and extending Justin Jefferson, but they're not going to be able to, with that, they're not going to be able to re-sign Danielle Hunter. So I think he'll end up somewhere else, but I think Kirk Cousins is going to stay a Viking for pretty much his whole career.
I think they're gonna keep Cousins, and then they're going to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, to sit behind him for a few years and develop.
I agree. We just have to wait to see what free agency brings us. It starts in the middle of March. I can't get the date off the top of my head right now, but yeah, we'll just have to see. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time on the NFL today, but don't go anywhere, because when we return, Noah and Matt will go over what happened this week in college basketball, and later the Premier League with Marco and Andrew. So stay right here on Top of the Line.
Hello, and welcome back to Top of the Line. Let's get right into it. March is quickly approaching, and I cannot wait for the conference tournaments. Noah, last night we had a big game with the unanimous number 1 team in the country, and a team we have talked about extensively, the defending champions UConn on the road at Creighton. Creighton absolutely throttled UConn and made a statement. Creighton is a team that can get hot and has great three-point shooting. Do you think this team will be dangerous this upcoming March?
Matt, I was shook when I watched UConn lose that game. I mean, Creighton, yeah, they're a very sneaky team. They can very well get it done against any team in this league. But, just doing that to a team like UConn, I just really didn't see that coming. And, Creighton looks ready for March Madness. They look ready to make a long run, maybe even I even say the Elite Eight. But Creighton did a very good job getting it done against UConn and just, like you said, throttling them. And I think this is where UConn has to kind of take a step back and realize what happened and what they can do better to get ready for March Madness. Because, Matt, the date's coming up soon. It's 9 days or 8 days until March. And as soon as that starts, March Madness starts. So UConn has to regroup quickly, get everyone good, and then they should still be able to make a deep run. But that was concerning seeing them do that against Creighton.
Let's look back, though, to Saturday. In an absolute stunner, Ohio State, who just fired their head coach, upset number 2 Purdue. I mean, no one saw this coming. Ohio State's program was in utter turmoil, struggling to win games, and firing their head coach, but came out hot and stunned Purdue. With 2 of the top teams losing, are you more concerned about UConn or Purdue?
So, Matt, I'll just say it here. I'm more concerned about Purdue. Purdue does this every year. They start off hot, they win a bunch of their games, lose very minimal games. Then they lose that one game in the regular season that they really shouldn't. Then they go into March Madness and they lose in the first or second round. I mean, we've been saying this team has been making a difference in their program, but, watching that game against Ohio State, playing a team who just fired their head coach, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You got to raise a better program than that. And, Zach Edey really didn't get too involved while Ohio State just completely took advantage of Purdue, being off their game. But, Purdue, they do this every year. They have to realize that they can't do it again this year, else it's going to cost them big because, there are a lot of teams that can just beat them in the first round and eliminate them no matter what seed they are. And it's a very concerning thing to look beatable every year, but Purdue somehow manages to do it. I don't know how. I couldn't tell you. But, I mean, this is Zach Edey's last year, so you either win this year or you have to wait a little bit. But, it's very concerning for Purdue. And, they can do the same thing that I'm saying UConn can do, which is regroup, get everyone ready. But I see weaknesses in Purdue's game, and it concerns me for their future, especially since March Madness, coming right up. So, I think Purdue, I've been saying all year they've made a change. I'm changing that. I think they're going to crumble under pressure. I think they'll lose in the second round.
Well, sorry. Well, let's look ahead to this week to 2 big games. Houston travels to Baylor and Alabama travels to Kentucky. Who you got, Noah?
So I got Houston on the road against Baylor winning that game because, Houston's been on a roll this whole season, and Houston will be a team that can get it done. And honestly, Matt, they're my favorite to win March Madness right now. I'm saying that Houston will win March Madness. And for the Kentucky-Alabama game, I have Kentucky winning at home. At least one home team has got to win, and Kentucky is on their game right now, and there's no time to stop with March coming up.
That's all for this week. Next week we start the preview for conference tournaments. But don't move because next up is Marco and Andrew on the Premier League.
Hello, I'm Marco Baldino,
And I am Andrew Mirzaaghasi.
and we will be covering this week's games in the Premier League and Champions League.
So, last episode we made our predictions. And with our predictions with Chelsea versus Man City,
We were both wrong in them.
we were both wrong. And I admit that I was hesitant to say tie again, but I said I wanted to do it just for the sake of pride for my team. And you did the same thing. Ended up being 1-1.
Even though, our predictions could have been right if our teams scored more, because they had a lot of chances in this game.
They did have a lot of chances.
Both ways, yeah.
Yeah.
So Chelsea start off first. They get the first goal in the 42nd minute. Raheem Sterling, the former Man City player, scores for Chelsea first, which really got me excited, which really made me stand up and we scored first, which was, I feel like, really surprising in this game. Also, I feel like kind of late into the first half, but we were able to score first.
Yeah, you were in the lead for like a while for that, and then Man City came in and then scored. So
yeah, I feel like Chelsea could have had like 1 or 2 more goals in this first half, because I feel like Chelsea came out explosive in the first half.
yeah, and
Like
then
Man City weren't prepared for.
yeah, they
but-
kind of weren't prepared for it, sadly. But at least we scored 1 goal, so then we could at least tie. But I felt like more goals could have been scored overall in this game instead of just being 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Chelsea did play good defensively, even though like Man City had so many chances, and Man City really struggled in this game, especially Haaland. Like
Yeah, poor Holland.
I'm so glad he did terrible that game, because he could.
Yeah, because
they
he
had
wanted to win.
chances to score, which really would have helped Man City win in this game.
Yeah, he just didn't do that good. Hopefully, he can get back up from the next game that Man City plays.
Yeah, I mean, they did beat Brentford.
Yeah, they did. They scored 1-0. That's a
And yeah, Man
bonus.
City and Haaland scored in that game,
Yeah,
actually.
that's most ironic that he did terrible this game, and then he helped defeat Brentford the next one. So, I mean, we won against Brentford. I called it.
But like that game against Chelsea really pushed you back, because now Liverpool is gonna have more points ahead of you, more of a lead.
Yeah, I know, more of a lead, especially when they went like 4-1 against Luton Town.
Yeah.
So now they're even more up now. We kind of need to score more goals in these games just so we can stand a chance. Because
Yeah.
we can't just take these 1-0 victories or 1-1 ties anymore if we're really trying to go for the top.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So now it's time for me to rant. And speaking of Luton Town, Man United versus Luton Town. This was a Man United victory 2-1. I watched this game, and I felt like it just suffered tremendously. All the action happened in 14 minutes. Man United would score in the first minute and the 7th minute. Meanwhile, in the 14th minute, Luton Town would score. For the rest of the game, they would try to get more goals in, but fail. And I was kind of losing my patience because they kept either missing, they kept running the time. I was kind of getting bored. I didn't like it at all. It was just not a very good game overall if all of the action just happened in the start.
Yeah, I mean, Højlund scored both goals for Man United. Like, yeah, all the goals happened very early, but like for the rest of the game, sure, there's like some chances, but like also like pretty boring to watch.
It was boring. I could have just turned it off and ended just right there. So there's nothing else. I feel like Man United just got away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we would have our standings. So for our standings, in first place we would have Liverpool with 60 points. In second place, Man City with 56. For third, Arsenal with 55. In fourth, Aston Villa for 49. And for fifth place, Tottenham with 47. So, like you mentioned before, because they had that extra game with Luton Town, they're now up 60 points, Liverpool. So they have a huge lead.
But yeah, I mean, they just have one more gameplay than you. Obviously, you guys are going to be like a point behind once you guys play the next game. I feel like when you guys should win your next game.
Yeah, hopefully we do win our next game. But after seeing what Haaland did with Brentford, hopefully he can do better. Like we discussed.
So now we're going to the Champions League, the first leg of round 16. And we're going to start off with Lazio versus Bayern Munich. Lazio upsets Bayern Munich at home and really stuns them. Really stuns Harry Kane too, which I feel like he's been struggling a bit too at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, like the only reason why it was kind of a 1-0 victory was because of the controversial red card that had been called with serious foul play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to call it. I feel like it could be either way. Probably red card because of a dangerous action. But either way, it ended up being a penalty kick for Lazio, and Ciro Immobile scores the penalty kick, that being the only goal in the game.
Yeah,
Lazio
that
winning.
goal really was the decider of the game if it was going to go in or not, because overall they tried, but then they miss. And then this was the one that actually made it in, so it was truly an upset.
Yeah, that's what really held off. And Lazio's defense really held off Bayern Munich for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it really did.
Now we go to the Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid at San Siro. Inter get the 1-0 win, which I feel like Inter Milan would have definitely won this game, and they did. But they should really step up their game for the second leg when they're playing away in Madrid.
Yeah, they should really do it, especially when in the 79th minute there was substitution that came in, and I think it was.
Yeah, the substitute for Inter Milan scored.
Yeah.
And Nadovic, sorry if I said his name wrong, but yeah, the substitute scored just off a rebound. But like, I'm just saying, like, Inter only had 1 goal in this game at home, so they really should prepare like defensively for the next game.
Yeah, if it's just like 1 goal, it's not really going to do that much, especially when they have to keep it with defense, because defense is very important for this, just in case if the other team scores. So hopefully they can improve on that.
And yeah, like also for Lazio against Bayern, like they're gonna be playing in Bayern, Lazio's gonna be playing away next game, which they should really prepare for, because like Bayern gonna be coming very strong at them.
Yeah, it's going to be very dangerous for them in territory, so they should really up their defense. If anything, they should always keep their guard up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for watching. Tune in next week for a recap of NFL and college basketball games, continuing coverage of the Premier League. All of this and more on the next episode of Top of the Line.